my rainbow necklace. Good morning, everybody. This is Lori at Viriditas, and I've invited you all into our training session. I'm actually speaking this morning with Sherry, who's one of our estheticians, and there are some of the things that we talk about in our training, and we just thought we would share with you today. So hopefully you'll find it interesting, and if not, sorry. And hopefully you'll learn something. So as you can tell, we are a little bit different than your standard practice. So she is sitting over that way, so I'm gonna look over there. So okay, so as I said earlier this morning, when we start working on a client, one of the things that's really important to remember is that what you're seeing right there right now is accumulation of years of change and events happening in them, and not just on their skin, but also internally. So when I say that we're doing real holistic work, we're looking at body, mind, spirit, and skin. So all of those things are going to affect the skin, even though the skin is part and parcel of the whole being. So the things that we see most obviously are color, right? So when a client comes in, they lay down and we look at their skin and we say, oh, okay, we always see their color. And we might see that they have some blemishes, or that they have some clogging or some congestion in the pores, or they might have some lines or what have you. But what I'd like you to think about doing first is looking at them when they first walk in the door. So from my history and my practice and training in herbal medicine, I've learned how to look at people from a global perspective. So the first thing that I see, and I use that term very loosely, the first thing I see is when they come into the treatment room, or when they come into the door. When they first walk in the door, and I notice, well, how are they moving? What's their body language? Are they full of stress? Are they relaxed? Do they have a vibration about them that feels sad? Do they feel cheerful? Do they greet me? Do they shake my hand? Some people are not, you can tell whether or not they even want to be touched by whether or not they put their hand out. I always do put my hand out, which is going to be like, hi, good morning, how are you? But some people will be hesitant. If they're hesitant, that tells me a lot about where they are right this minute, and that's just their current state. Then I look at, well, how are they holding their body? Are they closed? Are they, kind of arms tight to the body? Are they holding their head down? Often clients with acne are holding their heads down. They're uncomfortable about their appearance, which is terrible, but that is all the more reason that I want to help them. That's, as you know, after they come for a while, they come in and their head is held higher, and that is a beautiful, wonderful thing to be able to provide to someone. So you want to pay attention to those things. You also want to look, do they look you in the eye? Do they look around? Are they uncomfortable in this situation, or are they going to be good? Do they pull their hand away a little bit? Do they offer their hand very tentatively? Do they give you a firm handshake, or are they just kind of soft? Do they feel warm? Do they feel cold? If their hands are cold, then you look at it, I'm like, is it cold outside? Did they perhaps just had a cold drink? Or do they have maybe poor circulation? So I might take someone's hand. I might feel, for example, you might feel a warm handshake. Then you might look at their face and see, that quick body language, but you may also look at them quickly and say, they've got a lot of redness in their cheeks. What might that indicate? So I'm not just saying, well, okay, we need to do something about the redness in their cheeks, but redness in the cheeks may indicate maybe they've been exercising, right? The obvious things. Or maybe it's cold out, or maybe they have rosacea, or maybe they have acne, or maybe they have folliculitis, or maybe they've got some autoimmune diseases, maybe they've got lupus. And I'll automatically start calculating those things in my head. I need to ask those questions. And of course, we always have clients fill out a questionnaire and find out, well, what's going on and why are you here? What are your concerns today? And, the standard answers are either it was acne or aging, or, I want to take better care of my skin, or gee, I turned 35 and I feel like it's time to take care of my skin. Just a little note to you, if you're waiting until 35, you're waiting too long. You want to start early. Just saying. But the things that are usually concerns are things like, okay, I'm dry, or I have this line right here, or I'm getting little pimples along my jawline, right? So where those things are showing up on their skin are going to show you a lot about what else is going on. So fast forward now, they're into the room and they've changed and they're laying on the bed and we're looking at their skin underneath the magnifying lamp. You want to check their temperature. What is their temperature? Are they warm? Are they cold? Are they clammy? Is there a sensation of perspiration on their skin? Does the skin feel, this is a really difficult thing to quantify, but does the skin have like a buzz to it, if you will? So when you touch it, do you feel a vibration in your hands? And over time, if you're not already, I'm sure you already have because you've been doing this a long time, you start to recognize that sensation. Does the buzz, do you feel that buzz all over their face or only in certain areas? When you very gently move your fingers across the skin, does it feel underneath the tissue? Does it feel sluggish? So that tells you a lot about fluid movement. So if it feels more muddy on one side than the other, that can be a strong indicator of poor lymphatic flow. So are they getting enough exercise? Are they drinking enough water? Are they holding tension in their jawline, for example, which could slow down some of the lymphatic flow? Do they have puffy eyes? Here's a good example, right? I always have puffy eyes, and I'm very fortunate that I had some lymphatic drainage work yesterday with our resident lymphatic drainage specialist, Polly, who is amazing. And if you have never been to a lymphatic specialist, you need to go. And if you're here in this area, definitely see Polly. She's awesome. But I've had several really extreme injuries to my eye sockets on both sides. I got hit with a chair. I know, it was awful. I had a shiner like you wouldn't believe, but it caused some damage. So to this day, and that was almost 10 years ago, I have excessive swelling in this area. It's just poor lymphatic flow. So getting manual lymphatic drainage helps to keep that puff down. Now, mind you, we're also in the beginning of allergy season, and I appear to have some allergies going on, so I'm going to be puffy. Another reason I'm going to be puffy, however, in this area is because I also have a tendency to thyroid problems. That's a clear sign for thyroid issues, or puffy eyes. Now, yes, puffy eyes can be from a whole bunch of things. It can be from allergies. It can be from food sensitivities, which is a huge one, particularly dairy. That's a biggie. Dairy will definitely cause puff around the eyes. Hay fever. Being on a computer screen for too long, headaches, migraines, all those things can cause puffy eyes. Or makeup can cause irritation. There's definitely certain forms of makeup, some mainstream brands that I cannot use. They burn my eyes, actually, as soon as I even get near them with a makeup. So I'm sensitive that way. That's okay. So your client might be sensitive that way as well. Certain other things that you want to look at, and I don't know if people can see it on the video. So I have a line here and a line here. They're very slight, and then, yes, they're the lines that change when I move my head. However, not everybody has those lines. And when they're very prominent, that is often one of many indicators that there may be a thyroid issue in someone's future, if not currently. Now, when I'm talking about assessments, and I just want to also point out that a lot of this information I gleaned from one of my dearest mentors, Margie Flint. She is an amazing herbalist up in Marblehead, Massachusetts at Earth Song Herbs, and she's wonderful. And if you ever have the great privilege to sit with her, or anybody that she's trained as well, she's amazing and wonderful. So I'm just going to throw that out there. So from her, and also from my own personal experience working with skin, you take the information, you put it all together. So when we're looking at someone, you look and say, okay, well, this might be an indication. It might indicate something else, but that doesn't mean it's the end all be all. Like, oh my God, I've got the line here. Oh my God, I have thyroid problems. No, that's not how it works. You want to look for at least 3 indicators on a person's face. And not just on their face, but also on their fingernails, on their skin, on their body, perhaps their hair, their tongue as well, their pulse. All of these things are going to give you a much bigger picture of what's really going on. Like I said before, someone's cheek could be very red, but that may not mean that they have rosacea. It could be, well, they were cold. Or maybe they have lupus, or maybe they just scrub too hard and they're using products on their face that are inappropriate and they're damaging the barrier. Or worse, I know people are going to scream about me for this, maybe they're using coconut oil on their face, which is inappropriate if you have oily skin. Yes, that's the truth. Don't use it if you have oily skin. I know it's all over the internet, but it's not helping. It actually damages the barrier of the skin. So you want to look at all those things. Stepping back a little bit more globally, you also want to look at the overall energy. Now, once the person's on the table, you kind of feel it. It's like, do they feel very watery? Are they moving a lot? Do they have a difficult time quieting down? Are they in a lot of pain, so they're constantly moving, shifting to try to get comfortable? Are they impatient? How long am I going to be here? I have to be out of here in an hour. So that would give you more of an indication of their overall constitution, which in Ayurveda would be considered Vata, Pitta, or Kapha. So those are the three primary constitutional types, and the constitutional types exist in all forms of medicine. In Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, vitalism, Western herbal medicine, all of it. Every system of medicine has this sort of overview that all of the different elements are embodied in people, and that one or two of them will be expressed more obviously than the others. So for example, Kapha, Kapha in Ayurveda. So Kapha means that it refers to someone who is more oily and slow and methodical and consistent, and they tend to have thick hair and bright eyes and oilier skin. And mentally, if someone were mentally Kapha, they might take a little while to learn things, but once they got it, they never forget, ever. It's always there. Pitta energy would be someone who is more fiery, more quick, and precise. Rosacea is very hot, and Pitta is very hot. Kapha is very cool and damp, and Pitta is very fiery and sharp. Vata, V-A-T-T-A or V-A-T-A, depending on where you're looking at the translation. Vata is more quick and rapid and uneven, asymmetrical. So, the client who comes in who has kind of a quirky smile, so it's not balanced and even, and they've got, like maybe just like a little bit off, you look at their face. A good example would be Kate Moss. So Kate Moss, when you look at the two sides of her face, she's a beautiful woman, but when you look at the two sides of her face, split right down the center, you'll find that one side is very different from the other side. She's very asymmetrical, which is part of what makes her so stunningly beautiful. But someone who is Pitta is very symmetrical and very, exact. Another person that I count among some of my teachers would be David Crow, and he's a master in Ayurveda and herbal medicine, and particularly aromatherapy. And he says that, if there's no Vata, there's no pain, and vice versa. So there's no pain, no Vata. It's a different energy. So if you look at me, I have a tendency to a lot of Kapha energy physically, but mentally I have a lot of Pitta. So that whole concept of trying to pin somebody into one type, one constitution, it's more like a pie, so everyone's got pieces of all flavors in the pie. It's just that you might have a little bit more Kapha pie and just a little bit of Vata pie, So if you have 6 pieces of pie, you might have, if it was perfectly balanced, you have 2 Vata, 2 Pitta, and 2 Kapha. But for me, I might have 3 pieces of Kapha and 2 pieces of, another, and 1 of another. So it's just, what's the balance? And then it changes on a day-to-day basis. So when people go online and they take the tests and the self-assessments for their Ayurvedic constitutional type, what you're looking at is, well, how are you most of the time? And, okay, well, is there something out of balance now? And that's one of the things that you want to look at when we're working on a client is, well, where are they right now? Where are they today? And what's happening at this moment in time. So just a little flavor there.
Yeah.
Another thing that I like for you to look at as well is, what are the lines on their face saying? Now, lines are like a whole other category, right? But certain lines on certain places in the face will give certain indications. And I'm not saying it's not face mapping, because I think face mapping is really, really dabbling and not really having a better picture. And even what I'm showing you right now is just a dabble, but it helps to have a more global picture, if you will.
Right.
So, for example, I'm sure you've seen people who have the sharp line right in the center of their forehead, right? So that's a liver line. And now, speaking holistically, that's a liver meridian, and it's anger. It tends to heat. And you think about, well, why would that happen? That's just from people because they're always drawing their eyebrows together. Well, yes, and I'm always drawing my eyebrows together too, but look, I don't have that line. I have gallbladder lines, which are on either side. They're different than the line in the center.
Right.
So when the person has a line in the center, there's usually, you're going to find other signs of heat and liver imbalance on their face someplace, and that can show up as discoloration under their eyes. It usually has like sort of a yellowy color, a yellow undertone to it. They may experience itching on their skin in certain places. They may have difficulty digesting. They might have foul breath. They might have excessive perspiration. There's all kinds of things that you may see, and over time people will often say things to you like, oh yeah, my hands are really itchy. Okay, well, that could be gallbladder, it could be liver, it could be an accumulation of bile salts under the skin because the liver is perhaps overwhelmed processing things in their environment. So everything that you come into contact with, your body is going to process, and most things are going to go through the liver. Sometimes you put something on your skin and some portion of it is going to absorb. Some portion of it, not all of it, clearly. It depends on the molecular size. It depends on the condition of your skin. It depends on your age and the length of contact. For example, the length of time something is in contact with your skin. Like, the hot grease on my arm that, splattered up the other day. I mean, that was in contact for a brief second, and it was enough to cause severe damage. I blistered and I'm still healing. But you can put a lotion on your skin, and depending on what's in it, it could just sit there like a sticky mess for hours because the molecule's too big, or some of it might penetrate quickly. So a lot of those factors are going to come into play here. But anything that gets into your body, anything that comes in contact with your body, including your skin, will alert the immune system. Because your skin is a giant player in the immune system. So, you put something on your skin that's irritating, and your Langerhans cells on your skin or in your skin are going to respond, and you might respond with itching or hives. Well, people who are more likely to get hives, they'll say, oh, I don't know what's going on, I constantly have hives lately. Well, okay, that, herbally speaking, indicates some kind of a liver imbalance. So yes, is there an irritant? Absolutely. But the fact that you're overreacting, that your body is overreacting, indicates that your liver is kind of like, okay, I've had enough. This is a little bit too much. So you want to look for that response on the skin. So people, when we're doing extractions and their skin swells up quite a bit. Right. And I know you've seen that, right? So some people, you do a little pore cleansing and they just get this welt on their face, like, oh my God. All right. So, and I know we know the things to help to calm that down, but you'll find that over time, often it'll stop doing that. Some of that's just because they're sensitive. That's fine. But a lot of it has to do with liver, and a lot of that has to do with diet. So what are they eating, right? I read something, again, from Margie. I thought it was wonderful, but she says, avoid scars. So sugar, caffeine, alcohol, processed, like fake foods, processed foods, forget what the word she used for it, and junk. Just avoid the junk, basically. So on the skin, that's another indicator, right? So the liver, because the liver manufactures bile, right, and the gallbladder helps your body to digest fat with bile, right? Because it all breaks down. So all the fats that you're intaking have a huge impact on your skin. So, for example, if you're eating too many omega-6 fatty acids, right, which are found in high doses in factory farmed meats, nuts in particular, trans fats, things like that. If your body utilizes all the fats that you eat to manufacture all kinds of things, but one of the things they manufactures is pro-inflammatory factors and anti-inflammatory factors, right? So if you're eating too many foods that the body uses to create pro-inflammatory factors, and you don't have enough anti-inflammatories, so I think we talked about this once before. It's kind of like foods that your body uses to make fire, and foods that your body uses to make fire extinguishers, which would be like omega-3s, fatty fish, sardines, things like that, avocados. Those are anti-inflammatories or fire extinguishers. Well, if all you're eating are things that make fire, you're going to have a lot of fire. So when you go to do extractions and they swell up, that's a clear indicator that they have too much fire, which in Ayurvedic medicine then would be too much pitta, right? But it's because of an imbalance in kapha. So it's trying to compensate for it. I know it gets tricky. I know. It's okay. So when you're looking at, okay, well, how much fire starters, or how many fire starters are you eating, and then how can you counter it? Which is one of the reasons why when people come in for our program, we ask them to please look at the foods that they're eating and try to cut back on factory farmed meats, because not that meat necessarily is bad for you, that's a whole nother discussion, but if you're eating factory farmed meats, you're eating a significantly higher portion of omega-6 fatty acids, which make fires, and you're not getting enough of the fire extinguishers, the omega-3s. So pastured meats and pastured fats, like pastured butter and pastured eggs, have a significantly higher ratio of omega-3 fatty acids, which are the fire extinguishers. So that's one of the reasons that we ask people, please change what you're eating, because it will make a big difference in your skin. It's not just random talk. We're not BSing people. We're not just trying to be like, oh, well, you should do this. No, it really has a very significant effect on the skin. It will help with all kinds of digestion. So I'll go back to the rosacea, right? So there's some, again, when we're assessing someone, we're looking at what's happening to them. Let's say we see some red in their skin, and we've already looked at, okay, are they using products that are damaging the barrier of their skin? Are they over exfoliating? Are they using too much retinol? Are they using too much glycolic acid? Are they using too many acids in general? Are they using products that are not balanced for their skin? Are they scrubbing too much? All those things can create that kind of redness. But then the next step is we look at, all right, well, what else do we see? And we might ask some questions, and we look at, like, what are they eating? And, oh, well, I'm eating a burger every week or every day or whatever. Okay, so how is their digestion? Is there gas or bloating after eating? Do they have GERD? Do they have reflux? Reflux is strongly associated with rosacea, curiously enough, which is also highly associated with SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth.
Just reading about this.
Exactly. It's very fascinating. So, is there a causation? No, but there's a strong correlation. Right. And so, as practitioners, even though it's out of our scope to say, well, you should, here's what you should be eating, but we can certainly tell people and suggest to them, maybe you should look at what you're eating, because these foods have been shown to help these situations, and these foods have been shown to aggravate those situations. So we're not diagnosing anything. We're just looking for parallels. We're looking for associations. And when we take that information into the treatment room with us and really start paying attention to what's right in front of us and what we're hearing and feeling and seeing and smelling, you'll notice that sometimes there's a particular odor for the sebum. Yeah, I know. No, sometimes it doesn't smell very good, and that's rare, but it does happen. So when it's really smelly, that's a strong sign that they need more. That's a liver thing as well, and it's usually that they need more sulfur in their diet, because and that you can use cell salts if you prefer. There's a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to eat sulfur, but it's not straight sulfur. It's sulfur bound foods like garlic and onions and things, which are FODMAPs, and some people can't tolerate them, and you get a whole bunch of other issues, which again, it's all tied up in there with liver and digestion. Right? So I guess it's coming to be a liver discussion, isn't it? So all right, so let's talk about herbs for the liver, shall we? So some of the herbs for the liver are particularly in reference to skin, right? Because remember I mentioned the itching that you can experience. So if there's an excess of bile salts, people will often have itching, and they'll say, well, I'm just itchy all the time. Oh, it's just dry skin. But you feel their skin, and they're not necessarily dry. They may actually even feel a little clammy or damp. So that's a strong indicator also that there's a liver issue. If you have a good rapport with your client and you're not afraid to ask them, and this is something obviously that you want to know more about, but we ask people like, well, what's your stool look like? On the Bristol stool scale, which is always a good thing for people to look at, for their own personal health. Where am I on the Bristol stool scale? Are you right in the middle? I mean, it's like weird to think you're talking about poop, but it's an indicator of overall health, right? So if the color of someone's, bowel movement has changed, then there's a definite indicator of something going on inside. So, clay colored stools or bright yellow or dark brown, or all those kinds of things, you should just start paying attention to it. But an interesting little indicator for liver detoxification is particularly for yellow dock, which is a wonderful plant called Rumex crispus, I believe. If there's that urge to have a bowel movement, but it doesn't quite come all the way out, it kind of halfway out, and then it might kind of go back in a little, like weird. I know it's weird. That is a strong indicator actually for yellow dock, which yellow dock will really, really help support the liver and support the overall digestion. So sometimes we see people with really severe acne, and it's all underneath their jaw, right? This whole area has to do with the large intestine. This is colon down here, really colon, right? Oh yeah. Yeah. So when people come in and they've got all this breakout under here, there's a definite issue in their low gut. Now, I'm not saying that they're sick or there's any kind of problem there, but we want to look at it and go, okay, how can we support them in that process? And just let them know that sometimes that's a pretty strong indicator that that you might need to give your gut a little bit more love. So, up your fiber, up your water, and look into some herbs that might help you. Another one that I love, I had a phone call. It's weird. So another one that I love for the skin would be dandelion, which is starting to bloom now, and it's one of my absolute favorites. The dandelion. Yeah, it's the tooth of the lion, and it's funny because people love to rip dandelions out, and they, I hate dandelions in my garden, and I love them. I think they're amazing, and they're one of the best detox foods that you can possibly get, and it is so deeply nourishing for your liver and for your skin overall. It's just wonderful, and you can just go outside and pick the leaves, the baby leaves. Make sure you're picking actually dandelion. Because there's a couple lookalikes, not too many right now. They're not all that hard to identify, but just make sure. And if you're not sure, go to the store, and you can buy them in bundles now, or the farmer's market. You can buy dandelion greens. The petals, not the whole flower head, but the petals are edible. You can put those in your salad, and they're wonderful. You can make dandelion flower oil, which is wonderful and warming, and it brings up that wonderful warmth of the sun, and it's particularly good for the shoulders. Like tension in the neck and shoulders is dandelion oil. It's beautiful. I love it. And so dandelion also is a deep tonic for the liver. And it's very easy to use, and it helps to support digestion. In fact, if you find that you have even like a little tummy ache, just after eating, just a couple drops of dandelion tincture straight will help stop it almost immediately. Dandelion is amazing and so undervalued, and people love to spend, all kinds of big bucks on all kinds of other things, but it's so cheap and freely available. I mean, it is a gift from the earth. It's everywhere. I guarantee anybody can walk within a block of where they are, even in the city, and find dandelion. Right. It is ubiquitous, and I think that's one of the ways Mother Nature tells us that, here's medicine that you need, so I'm going to give it to you in abundance because you really need it. And when you think about that and how many people have dandelions everywhere, and so in holistic medicine, we hold that the liver holds and manages anger, right? So people who have energetically, we're talking about blemishes, and blemishes being like a little, I'm talking about angry blemishes. And notice that I use the word angry, right? So blemishes that are hot and swollen and angry, pustular, right? That's all liver. That's a liver, right? So like this, oh my God, you start to make the connections, right? It's all connected. So when someone has a lot of that happening on their skin, a lot of angry pustules, so we do things to help calm the liver, which is again why dandelion is so wonderful for them. So dandelion tea, drinking dandelion, roasted dandelion tea is fabulous. Eating dandelion, taking it in a tincture, putting it in a vinegar and making it, putting it on your salads. It's beautiful. I plan on making a nice batch this year myself because I haven't made any in a while. And it's easy. Just take some apple cider vinegar in a nice clean mason jar and stuff it full of fresh picked, clean dandelion leaves. Tear them up a little bit if you can, cover it up, let it sit for a week or 2, 3 weeks if you want to, and then just strain it. There you go, dandelion vinegar. And just eat it. Yeah, put it on your salad, take a teaspoon in the morning. People take, I like to have apple cider vinegar with a little honey in the morning. Right. Try dandelion vinegar, it's even better. Especially if you're doing it for your liver, it's amazing. So, yeah, so all those things are really, really good. And, yeah, so I just want to say, too, about the whole anger thing. So when we're looking at the skin, I know we were taught in school to just look at, what's happening on a very physiologic level. So you also want to look at, what's happening on an emotional level. Now, the clear thing to me is when a client comes in and says, I'm 32 years old and I've never broken out. I just started breaking out 6 months ago. My first instinct question is, what happened in the last year? Right. What happened? What happened to you emotionally, spiritually, physically? Was there some kind of trauma? Are you holding on to some anger? And I'm not blaming people. It's not a blame thing, but it helps me to see, I can help them. Clearly, we can help them topically with their skin right now and whatever's happening on their skin. But what other things in their life may have contributed to their body expressing it this way? Was there some repressed anger? Did something happen that maybe they should go see a counselor for? Or maybe it's just a life situation that they're feeling frustrated with and they need to, they just need to vent a little bit, And sometimes just when I say, what happened in the last year is enough. Yeah. And that's it. It just comes out, right? They just tell me and I'm like, it is okay. This is a totally safe space for that to happen. Right. So those are the things that you want to look at. The global picture of, what else is going on? And, was there a crisis of conscience that happened? Or was there a loss? Or did someone lose a family member? Or have a big move? Or just a stressful situation that triggered something from a long time ago, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they got this giant pimple and they don't know where it came from. So all those things are pretty interesting. So anyway, sorry I've just gone on and on. I hope you have time to go back and watch the rest of this, and if you like it, please comment, and if it was totally useless, let me know too. So I hope it's helped. Take care.